Hey guys, SK Nova here. I'm just making a second video. So I didn't talk about this too much in my last video, but I did finish the Foli fusion. I have the fusion video of me fusing it, but that's not super excited. You guys have probably seen how fusion works before. And I just recorded just what it looks like. I didn't record any audio with it. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the last event, sort of for the Foli fusion here, and the backlash that's being received, and some of the comments I received on my last video about whether or not Foli was worth fusing. Just want to clarify a few things. I think, so my personal opinion is I think he's definitely still worth fusing. But in my last video I talked about the cost of fusing Foli versus trying to find another legendary from shards, right? So on average, it's going to take you about 200 ancient shards to get a legendary. The average ancient shard price is about $1, right? $1 US, we'll say. And so it's about $200 to fuse a legendary, or to find a legendary on average. So that gives you kind of a price range for what a legendary is worth. Now, the Foli fusion, initially I thought, would be coming in underneath that. And I think, I haven't done all of the math, but the champion training event was definitely challenging, right? The 20,000 points that you needed to finish that event is pretty high. And from estimates that I've seen from other people's math, it was probably going to cost you, if you used all your energy towards it, just the leveling part is still going to cost you between 2,000 and 3,000 gems, which was pretty expensive. I'd say that would probably equates to $70 to $100 worth of, energy to do that part. So I guess that's pretty expensive. The rest of the events up until this point have been fairly inexpensive to get most of the other characters that you needed. Excuse me. The problem was the two rare characters that you could get from the Spider's Den and Fire Knight ended up being extremely challenging and hard to get for a lot of people. And people spent a lot of energy on that. Probably, some people have stated that they spent almost as much energy on finding those heroes as they did, finishing the Champions training event. So that became super expensive. So that, let's say, it doubles the cost. And now you're at the point where Foli fusion is costing as much as just buying the shards and farming it that way. On top of that, you need to run all the potion dungeons to ascend them. And on top of that, the final kind of kick in the butt for people was the summon rush. So I saw the summon rush was a legendary. I assumed this would be a 2,500 or 3,000 point event, which it turned out to be. What I didn't kind of assume is Centurion became a little bit harder to get than most people were ready for. And the biggest complaint, right, is that it's expensive. The other events weren't too bad, and I think for a lot of people have already spent a lot of their shards that they've gotten because of all the new heroes, and they're trying to acquire those. Or they spent, shards, ancient shards especially, trying to get the Rotting Mage and Tree Faller, rather than having to farm it from the dungeons, because those became difficult. So people kind of spent a lot of their resources, and then they throw this event out, which is kind of forcing them to spend money. And I think that's a big part of why people are super upset. And I totally get that. I think we all knew right off the bat that Foli was definitely not free to play accessible. And Playroom has kind of addressed some of that, saying that they like events that don't force people. People don't feel like they're forced into spending money in order to complete it. Foli, I mean, they're pushing the boundaries. At the end of the day, they're trying to make money, which I get. You can't please everybody. You can't make these events too easy. It's not really fun if everybody has every legendary. There's not really the diversity and challenge. So I get that, but I think it's just a little bit too bad. Maybe if Centurion was the 825 reward or something instead of the 1750 reward, kind of halfway there, that wouldn't be too bad, because people could probably do that with ancient shards and then maybe a sacred or a void that they've saved up. Now this way, the way that I got it is I had 2 sacreds saved up, one from an ultimate chest and one from my monthly void shard, and maybe another void shard from another chest, and then some ancient shards and some mystery shards. So for me to fuse to get Centurion, I didn't have to spend anything on top of what I already had. But I'm sure that the ancient shard packs have come out already. There's probably going to be a sacred or a void shard pack coming out to make people kind of be able to finish this. So for people that spend money or lots of money already, probably not a problem. For people that were trying to do this as cheap as possible, not too happy. Now, my final statement is Foli worth it? Is he a champion that you need to get? I would say he's not a top tier champion. He's not going to be the game changing. He's not, I'd say like Arbiter, Bad L, Big Gun, Martyr, Longbeard, Venus, like some of the very, very top tier heroes. The Foli's not that necessarily. But I remember when the Sir Nicholas fusion was going on, that's where I got him. And it was a lot less difficult, I'd say, than the Foli fusion. People were saying, Sir Nicholas is not worth it. Like, don't bother. It's too much effort. You have to spend money. It's a pay to win game. All those kind of statements. And people ended up not fusing him. I was actually on the fence at the time because I just started in January. I think the fusion ended around February. So about a month in, I was like, is it worth it for me to do Sir Nicholas? Should I spend the resources and time and effort and try to go for it? And I was on the fence back and forth, and I just happened to pull one of the rares that you needed to do it. And at that point I said, you know what, I'm going for it, and I'm very glad that I did. I don't use Sir Nicholas on every team. He's not even necessarily in everyone's top 10 list in terms of, you don't use him on clan boss. He's great in arena and certain dungeons and stuff. But I'd say he's maybe a little bit better than Foli, but not much. Foli also has some niche uses. Foli's not a void hero, so he's not as useful on every stage. There's some affinities he's not good against. But Foli is a clan boss hero, and he is really good in certain dungeons, such as Ice Golem 20 and some of the Fire Knight stages, the non-force ones. So he has some good uses there. And I've seen him used in arena. So he could be useful there, but he's not really a top arena character, I don't think. So I'd say he's equivalent. So for people arguing that he's trash or he's not very good, I would disagree with that. But he's definitely not one that you're going to use in every single category of this game. Not a campaign farmer. He's not amazing in every dungeon. Doesn't have a insane aura that's going to make him unstoppable or anything, So he's unique. But way better than Shamrock, we'll put it that way. He's not a bottom tier legendary. There's tons of legendaries that hopefully get fixed next patch. And Foli's he's in a good spot. So you don't need him on your team. So you don't have to feel like you have to have him. But if you do have him, I think there are many uses for him. So like I said in my last video, haven't finished gearing him yet. I just got him to level 60 and fully ascended. And, I did, the way I level them up is I usually level all my heroes to about 55, and then I start running mastery dungeons. So I think I finished all of his masteries almost. Did a lot of that, and that got him from 55 to 60. Because I do want to do a video on using him for clan boss and using him for certain dungeons, to help people see whether or not he's worth it, and for myself, because all my initial decisions for whether or not to use him were based off of just his skill set and possibly his stats and how to use them. So now that I've geared him up, I can actually try him out. So I think he's great with characters like Longbeard and Skullcrusher for a counterattack or burst team. You're going to have decreased defense up quite a bit. So that's pretty good. It's just figure which people to pair him with and how to build them up. I don't have any, probably not going to use any tomes on him quite yet, but I'm very interested in using him. So there you go. Hopefully that makes sense. Obviously I've spent money on this game. I really like the game. If you're on the fence about whether to fuse it, it's just too bad if you've already spent the effort to get as far as you can, and the last thing you have to do is spend money to buy shards to finish up the event against Centurion. I know that doesn't feel too great, and I think that, they could have made that a little bit simpler to do. So I can understand that, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's still probably worth doing. If you're on the fence, or if you're really angry, I mean, don't do it, don't play the game, but it's one of those things that if you feel like you're going to be playing the game for a while, you'll probably be kicking yourself of the fact that you got so close to finishing and you didn't. So hopefully that makes sense. That's my part 2, final part of the Summon Rush. I am interested to seeing if, because there's still some time left, about a week left before the fusion ends, whether or not they will introduce any of the characters in a different way. And regardless of how they do that, there's probably also going to be some backlash. Like if they happen to make Towering Titan much easier to acquire the second time around near the end, I'm sure the people who spent all the effort to acquire them the first time are going to be very upset. So it's almost like they probably can't win with however they do it, but will be interesting to see what happens in the next sort of week or so. Cool, guys. Hope you liked that video. It's not really on anything game related other than the Foli fusion, but yeah, just thought I'd throw it out there and give some more thoughts into the already very controversial Foli summoning event. See you guys in the next one.